Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. Let's start out with the call from Jim Sinclair. We'll get to the issue with Cyprus and then New Zealand. But this is an interview on King World News. You can see March 14th, 2013. This is what Jim Sinclair said. King World News also spoke briefly with legendary trader Jim Sinclair, who emphatically stated gold is about to take out 1600. Sinclair then boldly predicted, "We may never see that 1600 level ever again." So that was a pretty bold prediction. Eric King says, if that prediction from Sinclair turns out to be true, it will go down as one of the greatest calls in history. So let's look at the chart here. This is the 5-minute chart provided by netdania.com. You can click on the link below. And we'll draw in the trend line here. But I want to show you something on this chart. Now you can see that his call was on the 14th. This is where we got the blast off here, which appears to be after hours. That's very interesting. But and then you can see this brief dip below here. But if we look very closely at the action today, you can see that we were let's take this line off here. You can see we were getting ready to take out that 16, and let's get in real close and look at it. This is the bar right here, and if you look at the prices associated with that, they're down over here in the corner. You can see the low, well, now they're not showing up, but the low was 16 and 30 cents. So we reached 1630 cents, and then you can see a dramatic takeoff right there. So was that Jim Sinclair standing there in the futures pit waiting to buy at that price point? Who knows? Somebody was watching it, and that's when it took off. So now we hit about 1615, 1616, and now we're sitting at about 1612. Will Jim Sinclair end up being right? I don't know. Quite possibly. If we pull up the gold chart here and put on the MACD, we've definitely got a crossover. We're now trying to head up to that zero line, and we could be seeing a very big rally from here. So we'll keep a close eye on that. Now, of course, the really big news is going to be what's going on in Cyprus. But before we do that, let's take some questions here. One of those is going to relate to that. First question is from Lounge Skater 52. And that's about the America the Beautifuls. Hey, Brother John, big fan of the 5-ounce America the Beautiful coins, and have all 5 of the 2011s, 5 of the 2012s. 5 of these 5-ounce beauties are released by the Mint each year, and we're coming up on the 4th month of 2013, and not a single coin has been minted or sold yet. This is the first time this has happened and is very strange. Why do you think this is? If I had to guess, I'd say the U.S. Mint just doesn't have the physical silver resources to meet the demand of both the 5-ounce ATB and the Silver Eagle. I bet they're diverting all of their resources just to service the Eagle demand. Now, I think someone covered today that the Eagle set a record, a daily record. I don't remember what it was. I think it was 750,000 ounces in a day. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that's a very good point. Now, if you remember, people have talked about the Mint running out of blanks. So apparently the Mint gets these 1-ounce blanks for their Eagles. So that makes sense then. If the Mint is not in the business of creating blanks, they simply buy them on the open market, stamp them out. Well, who makes 5-ounce blanks, right? How often do you see 5-ounce coin? So if there is a bottleneck, then it makes perfect sense that they would divert the resources to the 1-ounce blank, which is more commonly stamped, as opposed to a 5-ounce blank. So that might be the explanation. I don't know for sure. We'll have to wait and see, but it's quite suspicious that at this late date, and we're talking about near almost to April now, we don't have any America the Beautifuls. And this one is Thorfinn Skull Splitter, And hey, Brother John, a longtime listener, first-time caller. I love the show, really. Thanks for taking my call. I noticed your bid the other day visualizing silver. You compared the silver market to the derivatives market with some striking images. Who can look at these images? And so here's some images of hyperinflations in the past. I think that one is, maybe that's the Hungarian one. And this is the German one. That's Germany. And I think that was Germany too. Then, of course, he shows the visualizing silver with all the money there. So, very good point. We seem to be already stacking up piles of worthless currency. Of course, the big difference is going to be that back in the day when these hyperinflations occurred, they didn't have the ability to keep these currencies as digital. There were not digital transactions in those days. There could be ledger bookkeeping, but they didn't have digital currency. So the big difference today is that all of this currency, hyperinflated currency, is locked up as digits in these banks. And that's how we're going to segue to the big story. And of course, that is the story in Cyprus. Now, the latest that we have here is reported from Zero Hedge. Apparently, if you hadn't heard, let me summarize. Basically, the EU came out and told the president of Cyprus that if he didn't agree to a haircut, they were going to shutter the banks. So he agreed to a 10% haircut for everybody with deposits over 100,000 euros, and then a 6-something% for those below. That created a firestorm of controversy. This is the first time they've ever taken depositors' money. And so we'll read the latest from Zero Hedge and then go to the New Zealand story. As is painfully clear to even the most naive observer, the biggest threat for Europe from this point on, now that Cyprus is officially unfixed, is what happens if the Cyprus banks reopen. Will the deluge of bank withdrawals drain 10% of the savings, as the country's central banker warned earlier today? 20%, 50%, or all of it? It is certain that any and all foreign oligarch accounts will be promptly pulled, never to be heard of again. And after being treated like third-grade European citizens, we doubt the locals will care much for having their cash in a banking system that Europe has shown is equal to all the other united banking systems, which, however, also happen to be just as much more equal. And once foreign TV crews show the lines of people scrambling to pull money in Cyprus to the local viewers in Greece, Italy, and Spain, will those countries also get comparable ideas? So you can see, folks, we're talking about bank runs here. And that's a very scary proposition, because we're talking about bank runs in a day when they just don't have the currency there. If you can listen to the anecdotal stories about people going down to their local bank. You can go down to your local bank yourself, and if you ask for even some thousands in cash, they may ask you to come back. So they don't really have a lot of cash on hand. Most of the currency is digital. It's carried as ones and zeros on computers. So what happens if there's a bank run? No one knows. That is precisely the Pandora's box that Europe has now opened, and which it is scrambling to close. How? With the dreaded contingency plans, among which are such last-ditch efforts as capital controls, including imposing limits on daily withdrawals from bank accounts, capping the amount of money that can be electronically taken out of the country, and making these transactions slower to clear, and introducing border checks to cap the amount of cash leaving the country, most recently utilized in banana-est of republics such as Argentina. So that's the story from Zero Hedge. Let's jump over real quick to the Russia Today story on New Zealand. New Zealand depositors could face a Cyprus-style tax on their bank accounts, as the government is planning to impose a similar strategy on its banks, warns the country's Green Party. New Zealand is facing a similar bank failure to Cyprus. Isn't it funny how these just come out of the blue? Didn't Cyprus just pass a stress test recently, and haven't the New Zealand banks been given a clean bill of health? But then all of a sudden, it's just like the Moody's and S&P. They go from AAA to F. Isn't that surprising? Is likely to adopt Open Bank Resolution, OBR, which will see small depositors lose part of their savings in favor of a big bank bailout. Green Party co-leader Russell Norman stated the country's finance minister Bill English supports the Open Bank Resolution. Quote, Bill English is proposing a Cyprus-style solution for managing bank failure here in New Zealand, and said Norman, adding, the Reserve Bank is in the final stages of implementing an OBR system. New Zealand's banks depositors will have their savings cut by a certain percentage needed to keep their bank afloat. The Green Party, however, has major doubts that OBR tactics are appropriate here. So, wow. Pretty shocking stuff. How this is coming up in New Zealand and why it came up in Cyprus. There's got to be a reason behind this. They don't do these things for no reason. And I think it has to do with the fact that we mentioned earlier as we segued into this, that now we're talking about digital bank runs. They're simply not able, they don't have all of that currency. I'm sure they could print it up, but if they printed up all that currency, then where would it go? Would it cause a crack-up boom of hyperinflation? So it seems that the central banks of the world, at least the EU and the Bank of New Zealand now, have decided to play this card of taking savers' money, basically devaluation, because that's in essence what it is. It's devaluing the currency that's on deposit in the bank. A very, very dangerous move. I don't know why they're doing this. I can't see how this won't result in bank runs. I can't see how there won't be bank runs in Greece, in Spain, in Italy, in Portugal, now in New Zealand. Why are they doing this? Normally, bank runs are the types of things that they try to fight against. When there's rumors of them, they try to quell those rumors, but it seems for some reason that the central bankers or bankers around the world now have decided that they're going to do some test cases to see what the public response is going to be. Are there going to be bank runs? Now, you and I have known for many, many years that this is coming. The goal is to save your money in things that are outside of the banking system, specifically physical silver, physical gold, all the things that you need to buy with those, including food, stuffs, and all essential supplies, because we knew this day was coming. They've made more promises than they can keep, and now it seems like they're tipping their hand as to what they're going to do. They're just going to simply give you a haircut, and then if that doesn't work and you try to take all your money out, then they're going to institute capital controls. So very exciting times. Now, the price of silver hasn't responded, and we don't have time tonight to get back to the debate. We'll do the final part of the Dawn Herald debate with Bill Murphy next time. But the main thing here is that even though silver has not responded the way gold has responded, for all intents and purposes, they serve a similar function, and that is wealth held outside of the banking system. Now, my understanding is that initially the European Union was talking about a 30 and 40% haircut in Cyprus. They were talked down to that 10 and 6% one. But and there's a whole bunch of other angles that I don't have time to address, including the weapons that went off there that cost them billions, the Russian factor, the Russian mob money that is alleged, the amount of money that comes in through Cyprus, so the Russian connection, the potential standoff between Russia and Germany, and there's a lot of undercurrents here as well. We'll have to wait to see in the following days how those play out, but it's quite possible that we have seen a correct call from Jim Sinclair, and that this is finally going to be the bottom where we begin to move I can't imagine how it can't be the case. I can't imagine how the people of the world could be so asleep as to not understand that they need to take the fiat currencies that they have left that have not been taken by the bankers and the governments, convert those into real money, gold and silver, protect themselves from what's coming, and protect themselves from bank runs. And we'll talk to you next time.